I love you forever. I love you forever. I love you forever.
July 25th, 2010 was the day that my life changed forever. I ended up marrying Kitya, and it was, to this day, the best decision I've ever made outside of accepting Christ. But of course, there were some few challenges down the road in that first year. It was a big paradigm shift to living. And I remember one thing that stands out to me is within that first year, I had a friend. He had a date that he was going on and he needed some advice. Mind you, I was on my way to Walmart, and that's where Kitya thought I was going, which I did. And he called me, I went by the school, we spoke for hours. I didn't even realize how fast the time went by. I left my phone in the car. When I got to the car to go home, I saw I had many missed calls. Kitya was calling me. So I didn't think anything of it. Got home and she let me have it. She was very, very upset because I didn't call, I didn't let her know what was going on. And at that moment in time, I realized that life is going to be different, because I grew up not having to have anyone over me to tell me when to come home, when not to come home. But I know in this marriage, in order for it to work, I was going to need some type of accountability in that sense.
Summer of 2010 was when Jono and I got married, and we were so happy. We were on such a high, moving up here, getting our own apartment, and just having a little world of our own where we could invite people, and it felt great. Some of the challenges that we had were, the fact that he was in school full-time, full load of classes, and sometimes I would just be home by myself because, I don't make friends easily, and I would be kind of clingy with him when he was home. So that was something that we had to learn to work through. But overall, summer 2010, heading into 2011, I felt like was a year of highs for us.
2011, our second year of being married, this one moment that sticks out to my mind is when I guess we had some differences, and we both felt as if we were not listening to one another, we weren't understanding each other. And we actually got home, or I came home, and we started to speak. And I started speaking first, and because of her response, I felt as if she didn't hear a word that I said. And at that point, emotions were built up and the cup was overflowing, and I was enraged, and I just left the home yelling at the top of my lungs, tears in my eyes, and it probably was around 5 o'clock in the afternoon, and I never came back home till probably about midnight, 1 o'clock. And at that time, there were so many feelings, so many emotions going on within myself, and trying to figure out how we're going to be able to work this out, how we're going to be able to communicate better. And eventually, even that night when I came back home, it was very somber, very, very quiet, and we spoke, and we both cried, we both had many concerns, but we definitely, as you can see, we got through that time. And from there, the Lord showed me that there will be many more difficult times to come. Why? Because you have decided to do something that most people do not do, and it's to get married and stay together forever. And so at that point, we reached another level in our relationship to communicate more, to open up more, to speak to one another, and not let things boil over to get to that point that it got to.
Our second year of marriage was a big adjustment. So, first year of marriage, we started out on a high, and then second year of marriage, some things got really real. At the time, I wasn't in my career field. I had to work 2 part-time jobs, and we'd agreed that Jono would just focus on school. So there were a lot of times where I experienced discouragement because I felt like, okay, I'm not in my field. I'm, 25 years old, and I'm working these jobs that have nothing to do with my field. And we had to be really, really economical with our spending. So that year was a year where I got frustrated a lot because I felt like I had no breathing room as far as finances, coupled with me working 2 part-time jobs. And there were a lot of times where I took it out on Jono. So that was something that we had to work through.
2012 was, like every other year, it was a great year. Many ups and downs. But the thing that I can recall that sticks out to my mind the most is when the summer of 2012, Ketia got a call from, or email, I believe, from Huntsville City Schools. She got a letter in the mail, and she got hired. To see that all she went through, coming from Miami to Huntsville, not knowing anyone, having to work 2 part-time jobs, having to go to an internship, having to do things out of her comfort zone. I was really concerned for her. My heart really bled for her because I saw that she was really trying. She was doing the best that she could. And she really wanted to be in the field of teaching because she felt as if this is where God called her. But for the first 2 years of our marriage, it wasn't so. But when God finally made it happen and the breakthrough came, we just were able to look back on from the beginning of the time that we got to Huntsville to that point, and we saw how God was really looking to move us forward in our marriage, move us forward in our relationship, and success in Him.
3rd year of marriage, 2012 heading into 2013, was a great time because I finally got a teaching job with Huntsville City Schools. And it was my first time teaching in a public school, and it was a totally new experience, but I was so grateful. Just the way God orchestrated it, I could just tell that He was leading me back there. So that was something that really reconfirmed my faith. And coupled with that, though, was knowing how to balance work and home life. Because as you know, teaching is very consuming. So there were a lot of days when, I would bring work home and keep it home. And so that was another challenge that we had to learn how to overcome, was me balancing my work and my home life. One of the most memorable things that happened last year, in our 4th year, was, we were trying to have a baby, and October got a positive test result, and we were getting excited. And about 8 weeks into the pregnancy, we found out that I would have a miscarriage. So that was a really big disappointment that was heavy on both of us, and it was really tough for me because I at the same time felt just demotivated with work and everything else, and I still had to keep going on. So that was one of the biggest obstacles that I faced this past year, is moving past that and learning how to just work through my feelings and work through issues.
Another thing that I think of this past year was, I mentioned before, just graduation. And where I've come from, and the statistics in this country, young black males do not graduate with honors and bachelor's degree. But by God's grace, I was able to do that. And I know I wouldn't be able to do it without my wife here, because she was my support big time, checking papers with me, for me, doing all these different type of things so I can excel. And when I finally walked across that stage, when I walked across, it was a surreal moment. I had a very stoic look on my face, but I was very contemplative at the time, just rehearsing how far God has brought me. And I knew at that time that I couldn't have done it without my wife there. And from there, we were able to go to Miami and start the Pure Couples Ministry. And that was a breath of fresh air because it's something that we want to do long term. And being able to get our feet wet and do that, it was just phenomenal. And the reception that we got from the people, how the people received the message, it was amazing. And that was a really like, this year was really monumental in our relationship.
Yeah, just to see how people younger than us and even our peers look to us as examples in relationships, and being able to have a blog where I would write about relationships and have feedback from people. That ministry aspect really opened our eyes to the fact that, you know, God has given us the power of influence to be able to be an example to all of these people. And another high this year, 2014, is that we found out that I'm pregnant. So we'll be expecting a baby girl in October.